Joining me now for the interview is Jabbar, host of the Voices of Change podcast. Mr. Jabari, thank you so much for coming on the show.
No problem. Thank you so much for having me.
So I want to firstly start off where I began the show in the introduction with President Biden's support of basically what Israel's doing in terms of genocide. And this has been going on for, well over, 75 years at this point. What do you make of the fact that the president is going along with this, as well as many other Democrats within the party? The president calls, the prime minister of Israel his best friend. Just what do you make of those moves?
Um, so I think Biden has a Cold War mindset still. A lot of these politicians, from my experience with studying them throughout the years, that people that have this idea of just being the best thing that can ever happen for humanity to them. Neocons, basically.
Mhm.
Biden is a full on neocon. I remember during the Obama administration how he was promoting the Iraq war. He voted for it as much as people, not the Biden administration, during the Bush administration. During the Biden administration, he was actually doing things in Ukraine, which totally different conversation. But he has always been the guy that was for war 24/7. He does not feel bad at all about what's going on. He has said starkly before any of this happened in the beginning of the year that he is a Zionist. And Christian Zionists are the hugest supporters, not Jewish people. Christian Zionists are the hugest supporters. They promote this issue that Israel has to exist, and then you have the Jewish Zionists as well too, which are in the government and the settlers. Whoever, there's a lot of settlers that disagree with their government, so I'm not going to say all settlers, but Christianity here in the United States, there is a huge group of Christians that are Zionists that outweigh the Jewish Zionists, and Biden is one of them. So Biden, it's not surprising for me knowing his policies for
Mhm.
years, that he is supporting Israel, um, and he only feels blowback because he's noticing that this is destroying his reelection opportunity. If he didn't have a reelection opportunity, he'll probably not care if this was his second term. But it's a very big embarrassment to be a one-term president. It's all about ego with these guys. These guys are very egoistic. So he is definitely not surprising me at all with his support for Bibi, and he's also sending Hellfire uh, missiles there as we speak.
Mhm.
So he's trying to get a bill passed for over $100 billion for Ukraine and also for Israel. So he's going to keep doing that while also saying that he cares about the Palestinians. That's all he's going to say. I care about the Palestinians, but I'm going to be sending missiles and stuff over there so they can kill you guys. This is basically what he's doing. He's two
Mhm.
faced, the son of a bitch. Can I curse on this? I apologize.
No, you're good. It's okay. I'll
I'll keep it
censor it out.
PG. Yeah.
And just based off of that, politically speaking, um, in terms of popularity around the nation, where Americans view this, I mean, we are not living in the age where it was like the Vietnam War, where you had like bare access to information.
Right.
Even though like a lot of it was on TV at the time, we're now living in the age where you can instantly get things. And so like Americans aren't stupid. They know the truth here that Israel is, diabolical in what they're doing here. But to have a president be so consistent and vociferous about his support for them. Um, do you feel as if the damage is already done, even if you try to, basically, I guess, clean up your statements before reelection, because Americans have already seen your view?
So I want to say the damage is always done, is already done. I want to say that.
Hmm.
But the issue is that I don't know how people are going to vote. But what I do see is that The Muslim population, which I stand in solidarity with, have already said they are not going to be supporting him, and I hope that they stick to that. Um, my former party, which I spent almost 10 years with, I'm on a hiatus right now from advocacy with them, but the PSL has always been the center of grassroots. We are the youngest and the most biggest party for a third party in the United States of America. So we have seen countless times of the Muslim population, um, upset of what's going on, and these presidents still get reelected. But the outrage that I'm seeing right now is definitely different because we're seeing a genocide here that is before our eyes. It's comparable to if we had social media during the time when the Spanish conquistadors rolled into town, Columbus, the Pilgrims, when the British was conquering the world, basically. So we're seeing that now, and this is going to hit different. So I really, really am hoping that we show at the ballot box exactly why he effed up. And the other problem is we have Trump on the other side, which I don't have no like. I'm not going to vote for him. I'm voting third party. I'm voting for Claudia Dela Cruz. That's what I'm voting for. We need to get third party back into the Senate, third party back into the House. We have a country that's 47%, depending on the polls. Some are saying 49. Half the country is independent now. Half the country does not support a Democrat or a Republican. We have the power to send somebody that's not a Republican or a Democrat in office. We have the power to change this system if we get serious about this. But I don't know if Biden takes them seriously. I feel like Biden is thinking what I'm thinking in the back of my head. At the end of the day, they're going to vote for me anyway because I'm not Trump. This is what the Democrats have been pushing forever. I'm not Trump since 2016. So I'm sorry. That was a long explanation, but I want to give you exactly how I feel.
No, you're good. You're good. And see that was my whole thing with this. It's like we have this major issue, what's happening in Palestine. And then when it comes to voting next year, you're presented with these two alternative candidates, and we're at the point where it's like, okay, vote for saving democracy or vote for authoritarianism. So it's like you're kind of stuck. So even if you didn't support Biden in what like he did in terms of his statements and support, you're almost presented with like, well, I kind of have to now, you
Yeah,
know.
the Democrats are very, very. I used to organize with the Democrats before I joined the Socialist Party. It was Bernie Sanders that made me more radical than Bernie Sanders. Thank you, Bernie, for letting us down. By the way, so I I know how these guys are, and it's a cult. I'm going to be real with you. Democratic supporters are just as much as cult like as Republican supporters. If anything, they're kind of worse because you see a lot of white people that literally are trying to bully black people, brown people into just, oh, what are you going to do? Huh? We're going to go back to what it was back in the day. Huh? Your vote doesn't matter if you don't support the Democrats. Only they can help you. Like you see that 24/7. You've seen these young kids your age on TikTok and on X yelling, "Oh, if you don't vote for Biden, what about my future? What about my future?" Let me tell you something. We're black here. We have dealt with this. Our ancestors have dealt with authoritarianism here in this country. Our ancestors have been kidnapped and brought here. You know, we already had presidents that were just as bad and even worse. Mm-hmm. So my thing is, if who am I to try to say, oh, I'm just going to vote Democrat because it's the only option? Martin Luther King did not go out there and do what he did for a vote. He did what he did using his body. He sacrificed his time. Activism is a sacrifice. It's not a, oh, look at me, peacock type of feeling when you got the phone in your hand and TikTok. I support it because it's changed the narrative, but it's not, it's all about a principle. And if somebody is not with the principle that you want, they have to go. So yeah, I hope I answered your question.
No, you did. In terms of when this war started exactly, I'm a person that advocates for getting your information from credible sources and actually reading articles. But one of the things that I was struck by on social media was that people were almost presented with this false narrative. It's
Right,
like, if you don't support Israel, you're anti-Semitic, you hate Jews.
right,
But it was like, no, 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 that's not what this is about. Like,
right.
the history was very like not told. People didn't know exactly what was going on. So with this situation, we are talking about a population of people, the Palestinians, who have been displaced and massacred since 1948.
Mhm,
And what people are not seeming to understand here is that we have to be in full support of Israel because that's what our government says, or that's what is not anti-Semitic. How do how do you bridge the gap between that and get people to understand that this is a war for what's right, a war for, getting the Palestinians peace? Because,
mhm.
since 1948, like, their country used to be so big, now it's just stripped to Gaza. So, like,
Right.
how do you get through to that?
Well, first of all, I am a college dropout, but I still like to do academia, and
Mhm.
I appreciate people that I join these academic type of conversations with in spaces that I'm invited to. And one thing that I come to understand when it comes to the term anti-Semitic, they are only using one part of the definition. If you go to the dictionary and you look up the word Semitic, it says relating or I'm sorry, it says a family of languages that includes Hebrew, Arabic, Aramaic, the language that Jesus spoke, uh, certain ancient languages such as the Polynesian, and there's another term I can't. I'm not even going to try to read that word. Coding for the main subgroup of Afro-Asiatic family. So Hebrews and Arabic speaking people are Semitic in the dictionary.
Hmm.
Zionists are using one part of the definition to prove their case when the people they are murdering are Semitic as well too.
Wow. Wow.
I just want to make sure that people fully understand what they are saying and how they are using propaganda to change it's alternative facts to them. Basically, it's fake news. They're using fake news. Zionists, and I'm not saying Jewish people, I'm saying Zionists. Those are the people I'm targeting. Zionists are using terms and lying in their propaganda to change a narrative away from the actual reality. We all knew that Palestine has existed on maps. Hell, when you look at the biblical time, it says Palestine there. It says it. These
Mhm.
people are indigenous to their land. And as an indigenous person who was from the Natue and Maharan tribe and Halawa up in Virginia, that's where my grandmother is from. And as a black man, an African that does not know where I come from in Africa, what language I spoke, what traditions we held, what holidays we had, it infuriates me to see people are using this type of rhetoric to justify the extermination of another indigenous culture.
Mhm.
And it's very, very wrong. And I'm gonna tell you, you're not anti-Semitic when you talk about Israel. If you solely talk about how the Israel state is doing, and you solely talk about the Zionism part, you're not anti-Semitic. You have the right to critique them because what they are doing is wrong. Now, if you're going around saying what Kanye said, you are anti-Semitic.
Exactly.
You are. I think that's the best way to break it down
Yeah, yeah.
because it's not all Jewish people. There's black Jews, there's Arab Jews, there's great white Jews. Hell, Russia, which is a country that I have studied for years, they have a very large Jewish population. Now, let's talk about that real quick. Tsarist Russia before the USSR. I know everybody has their differences about the USSR. We're not going to get into that.
Mhm.
Tsarist Russia. We all agreed that the empire that was set in Russia was very barbaric before the Bolsheviks came and got rid of them. Tsarist Russia was a huge part of contributing to anti-Semitism. Huge part. Not just Germany, not just Ukraine, not, and we're going Stefan Bandera. People need to look him up. Stefan Bandera. When I talk about the anti-Semitic history in Ukraine as well too, and we're talking about Eastern Ukraine. We're not talking about Western. Germany, of course. Anglo-Saxons as a whole, not the Slavic regions, which is up in Russia and Ukraine, and Anglo-Saxons as a whole, the Germanic descended people, all of Europe was very, very anti-Semitic. They used to beat them up and attack them whenever there was an issue with, I don't know, the bubonic plague or the Black Death, whatever. There was always a way for them to just persecute them. So they needed to go somewhere. And that's how Zionists started. And they actually supported and loved Palestine. They actually called it Palestine. You can see it in their writings. When you look into the earlier Zionists, they were like, hey, this is where our land was biblically. Maybe we can go and coexist with them. Let's have everybody go there. Mm-hmm. This was the 1800s, the late 1800s. So when Hitler came to power, that dude is such a jerk. We all know. And that's me saying it the nice way. Mm-hmm. I could say something else because my podcast is unfiltered, but I'm trying to be. So after that happened, and Moscow, Russia lost the most people in that war. They lost over like 25 million people, I believe. And they were able to take Berlin and stop Hitler. Britain was the ones that were like, okay, so where are we going to put these Jewish people? We don't want them here. United States is taking scientists, Nazi scientists, and around that time they were still barring Jewish people from coming. People got to look at their history. Mm-hmm. Jewish people were barred here. They were not allowed here. They were the Mexicans of today, if you basically want to get an understanding. They were hated. So they looked at Palestine and they took it to the extreme. They brought Zionists over and they killed Palestinians, the British in cahoots with the Zionists. And they call it the Nabuk, where over 77,000 Palestinians were displaced and was forced to move. Now let's fast forward today. When you look at the immigration and you look at the refugee population of cultures, Palestinians are the highest. 70% of Palestinians today are not in their homeland. They are scattered throughout the world. Scattered. So to call me anti-Semitic for people that want to say anything that you say about Israel is anti-Semitic. To call me anti-Semitic and you don't know your history, you haven't looked into that, that is the fallacy in your belief that you need to look into. Literally. For anybody who's listening.
Exactly. In terms of the humanitarian aspect of this, more than 16,000 lives have been claimed in Palestine. This includes both women and children, including babies. Can you speak to the humanitarian impact of this war? Because, I mean, Palestine is a place that is constantly living under threat, that is constantly living under terror from Israel. So it's not like, oh, this just happened and, they're dealing with the impacts. Like, this is a place that has been ravaged, that has been ransacked. Can you speak to the humanitarian aspect of this, especially because I know you're in contact with some of your Palestinian contacts?
Yeah, and let me tell you, it's very depressing what I see. It's really not. It's really sad. There are days where I literally just have to not look at my social media, but hey, look, I'm a political commentator, so I have to also know what's going on, stay on top of things. So I space it out. Gaza is an open air prison. This has been confirmed by my old job, Amnesty International. which I have quarrels with, which is why I left, because of their ideas on certain human rights policies, which I disagree with, but that's a wholly different story. Even the Human Rights Council, Human Rights is a Human Rights HRC, I believe it's Human Rights Council. They have confirmed this. They even said that it's apartheid state. Both entities. The UN as well too has said this as well. So Gaza has, there's no IDF before all this has happened. The IDF left because Hamas drove them out. No one is allowed to leave Gaza. They control all of it. They control the water supply, electricity, everything. This is why they're able to shut it off. And people should question the pro-Zionists. If they really care about the Palestinian people, why would you cut off the electricity and water? Mm-hmm. Well, have you watched Gaza Fight for Freedom documentary? People should watch that. It gives you a full understanding by Abby Martin, who I've met. Very awesome woman. She's one of the best journalists that America does not deserve. Abby Martin. That's just how I feel. We don't deserve somebody that is just as talented and driven as she is. She has exposed a lot, and she's banned from Israel and Gaza because of it. The IDF. They shoot you if you try to go 5 or 10 miles out into the water. You'll get shot for anything if you try to leave, any kind of way. It's constant. It's like a blockade, like in security surveillance, which they boast about until after October 7th. Apparently, their security surveillance wasn't strong enough to stop the Hamas task. But now we're seeing new reports that they knew of this attack happening anyway, and they chose not to do anything about it. Egypt told them about it and stuff like that. And then, it's half of the population that was during the time of 2002 when Hamas was voted into power, the only election they ever had, by the way, which tells you how suppressed they are. And they try to use that as an example to say that it's Hamas. But no, you guys did not allow them to have a democracy for how long? And you use Hamas and the PLO to go against each other. And they did. They fought each other. And the PLO stayed in the West Bank and Hamas is in Gaza. Mm-hmm. So it was all Bibi Netanyahu's plan to keep them divided because he knew if they all stayed together. He even talks about this, by the way, guys. Just read. Exactly. Look this shit up. So the West Bank is I just cursed. I apologize. The West Bank as well is being attacked. In the West Bank, there's over 200, I think it's 300 now, of Palestinians. After October 7th, where 300 Palestinians are now detained. And Ahmed Tammy, who is very well known because of her just sticking it to the IDF when she was younger, she's part of that detained population. Arrested. I don't want to say detained. They're not detained. They're arrested for no charges. A lot of children are in detentions for no charges at all. Israel is the only state that has a military court to prosecute children. Not even just prosecute, just to detain children because they're not being prosecuted. Prosecute mean they were charged and they're waiting to have the court date and then they're going to be judge, jury, all that stuff. That doesn't go on in Israel. No. That doesn't go on in Israel. Israel, you see a Palestinian, you either shoot them or you put them in prison. That's what they do. So you're seeing kids that are coming out when they did the hostage swap, seeing kids that you haven't seen for years, just like they just come out, and when women, mothers, they just let them out, and then they stop it because they're saying, oh, there was a breach in the agreement or something. That's nonsense. Y'all wanted to go back to bombing Gaza anyway. You told all these people to run to the south. Where are they going to go? They can't go anywhere. Mm-hmm. And then you got this guy named Ben Gvir, who is a starch. He's a part of Bibi Netanyahu's cabinet. He's a very right wing Zionist terrorist. He has been a part of a lot of atrocities towards the Palestinian people. He's handing out guns in the West Bank to the settlers to shoot Palestinians. The IDF is looking the other way while they attack Palestinians. There's video all over the place. You want to talk about human shields? Hamas. There's no evidence that Hamas is using human shields, but there's evidence. There's videos all over talking about how TikTok on TikTok, there's video of how the IDF is using children as human shields. You see them put them on the what is it? The truck. They're put on the truck. You see them hide behind them when they're pointing a gun at somebody. They're using people as human shields themselves, and they are deciding to say it's only Hamas.
Wow.
There's a lot I could talk about what's going on over there.
I know,
but it's very sad, and it's very comparable to what we went through during Jim Crow, where there's Arab only access, Arab only schools. They keep them divided purposely, and I need Americans to understand that part.
In terms of human rights being looked at here as an actual plausible, logical, basic human decency. Earlier, it was, I think earlier in November or something, that the UN basically proposed this resolution for a ceasefire, and the United States denied it because we basically said that, oh, Israel, it doesn't say in the ceasefire that Israel has the right to defend itself.
Mm-hmm. That's cap, by the way.
I know, and this is such like an emotionally, difficult conversation to have, and also just difficult to cover, just in terms of being an observer of this.
You want me to say it?
Huh?
You want me to say it? Israel does not have the right to defend itself. Under the Geneva Convention in Article 46, they are seen as an occupying force. Occupying forces are not allowed to start wars, which it's not wars, it's genocide. They're not allowed to attack the people they are occupying. It's not a war. You're not having a war with someone you're occupying. You already won the war. Israel does not have a right to defend themselves. I'll say it. You won't get in trouble.
Wow. No, see, I didn't even know that, because like I didn't even know this. Like, I'm a student of history. I definitely study history a lot, and I try to bring a lot of history on this podcast to enlighten people. And see, I was not aware of that history.
Oh yeah, the Geneva Convention will give you a huge eye opener of how war is supposed to be conducted, and the collective punishment. By the way, that's a war crime, and that's exactly what Israel is doing, which is why they have to use the excuse of human shields to try to deflect from that. You get what I'm saying? They wouldn't be saying the human shields part if they were allowed to do a collective punishment.
And I guess my last question to you is, in terms of the future and in some God glory-given future, is there the potential that we will see Palestine fully get what was theirs back? Because Israel, since it was formed in 1948, it started off as like this, specific place for Jewish people. And now it's become so massive that Gaza is what Palestine used to be larger. Are we going to see, do you have hope for a renewal of that, an eventual, I don't even want to say peace talks because it's so pessimistic. What's your view for the future?
I would say that Israel's not going to be the same that it was on October the 6th. This is going to change a lot of things. Even Biden has said this, which is the only thing I agree with him with. What needs to happen is an Arab solution for Arab people. That's what needs to happen, and it's not going to happen under this administration. With Bibi. Bibi needs to get locked up, first of all. I don't think there will be any kind of talks of peace with Benjamin Netanyahu still in power, especially with the cabinet that he has as well too. But I do think that there is a chance just like what happened in South Africa, that this apartheid system can be demolished. I believe in that. And I believe there's a way that we could go back to where it was, where Jews and Palestinians and Muslim Palestinians and Jewish and Christian Palestinians were able to coexist in peace, because they did that. It happened for hundreds of years. Yes, there was disputes. We're humans. We all have disputes. I mean, Africa, the tribes were fighting each other 24/7. Here, tribes was fighting each other 24/7. But there wasn't a oppressive regime before the colonizers came. I'm talking about before that. That literally where they were just oppressing each other, putting them into circumstances, occupying each other, and destroying each other's way of life. No, that wasn't a thing that existed. So I believe, just like what happened with South Africa, it took the media, it took the world to be outraged for South Africa to get better. And South Africa is not anywhere like, where they want to be, but at least they are trying, and there's no apartheid. And that's where I feel that needs to happen for Palestine. And I'm very optimistic that that can happen after this whole conflict. And my heart goes out to the Palestinians, especially the press, Palestinian press that I know, the journalists that I know out there. My old boss family. I'm so sad for them. They lost over 70 journalists so far. So it's very, very sad what's going on. And I hope the world sees this and we do something about this.
I know I said one last question. I want to ask you this. One more. Just under 2 minutes and 30 seconds. But
no problem.
In terms of what I do here on the show, and then of course what you do, in terms of activism and journalism, how do people like us with platforms that can reach people, how do we cover this war, this genocide responsibly?
Deep question, man. Look, we all have our own point of views, and we can only put it the way that we see things. But I think the best thing that we could do is to make sure that we're centering the oppressed, in this point, the Palestinian voices. Make sure we're centering anti-Zionist Jewish people that are like the organization Jewish Voices for Peace. They are phenomenal, and they're doing everything they can in America to let people know that this is not going to happen in their name. We just need to center their voices. Stop watching mainstream media. We should have stopped during the Iraq war, but clearly they found ways to get us to trust them again. Mainstream media is dead. It's all about, what's real media? You. People that are out there actually trying to make sense of it all, that are not backed by corporate donors, that are not backed by a party that is a bourgeois party like the Democrats and Republicans, that are free thinking. Tommy Nation Politics, I'm thinking about him. He's another podcaster that I talk to from Texas. Free thinking, innovative. That's what he always says. Go off of that. Trust yourself and trust the information you get on the streets.
Again, my guest is Jamar Jabbari, host of the Voices of Change podcast. Mr. Jabari, thank you so much for coming on the show. It was really nice to have you.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, and definitely would love to have you on my show as well too. So let's stay in touch.
Yes.